Luna's return wasn't just a twist. It was a detonation. The last time anyone saw her, she was unconscious, broken, and presumed lost. For weeks, whispers of her death echoed through the halls of Forrester Creations and Spencer Publications. Memorials were held, statements were made, tears were shed. And then, without warning, she appeared alive, standing in the entryway of Spencer Towers with a baby bump that left the entire room breathless. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Her presence said it all. But behind the gasp-inducing image of the pregnant woman who was supposed to be dead was a storm far darker than anyone had imagined, because Luna hadn't just survived, she had plotted. And what she revealed would rip through Los Angeles elite with surgical precision, exposing the deepest betrayals, the coldest manipulations, and a revenge decades in the making. First came the tapes, Luna's own recordings, saved offline, outside the reach of anyone who had tried to silence her. One file was dated the day before her disappearance. Her voice was shaky, hesitant, but clear. She said she feared for her life, that someone close to her had used her as a pawn in a game she didn't understand, and that if anything happened to her, the truth would eventually find its way out. And now, it had. As the media swarmed, Luna sat down for an off-the-record interview with Bill Spencer himself. It was a private meeting. No cameras. No PR. Just the man she once trusted and the man her mother had sworn to destroy. That's when she dropped the first bombshell. Poppy had orchestrated everything. From the moment Luna entered the world of the Forresters and Spencers, her mother had been pulling strings. Poppy, with her calm voice and warm smile, had carefully designed every step from Luna's placement at Forrester Creations, to the seemingly accidental run-ins with Bill, to the scandal that followed Luna's supposed breakdown. It was all part of a long game, a revenge plan aimed squarely at Bill Spencer. Why? Because decades ago, Poppy had been cast aside by Bill, not just forgotten, erased. She had been young, pregnant, and invisible in a world run by billionaires and brand names. When she tried to contact Bill about the pregnancy, she was stonewalled, brushed off, silenced. Luna was raised without ever knowing who her father was, and when the truth came close to surfacing, Poppy made a choice. If they wouldn't give her a seat at the table, she'd take the whole damn table down. According to Luna's confession, when she survived the drugging, the blackout, the cover-up, Poppy was the first person she called. Not the police, not Bill, not Finn, not Steffi, her mother. And in the aftermath, Poppy revealed everything. The secret alliances, the manipulation, the false records, the plan to infiltrate Spencer territory by making Luna appear vulnerable, tragic, desirable. The pregnancy changed things. It wasn't part of the plan, at least not originally. But once Luna discovered she was carrying a Spencer heir, the game shifted. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about legacy. Bill's legacy. And that's when the layers of lies began peeling back like burnt skin. Forrester Creations, already reeling from scandal after scandal, found itself at ground zero once again. The public didn't know what to believe. Had Luna faked her own death? Was she a victim? A conspirator? Was Poppy a grieving mother or a vengeful saboteur? Investors panicked. Designers quit. The press released leaked emails, internal memos, and confidential HR reports suggesting Luna had been flagged as a security risk months before her collapse. But no one acted. Why? Because Steffi Forrester had suppressed it. To avoid drama. To protect Finn. To keep Hope's line on track. Now, that decision threatened to bring down the entire company. The board demanded answers. Ridge went silent. Brooke tried to play peacemaker. Hope disappeared from public view entirely. And then came the kicker. Luna claimed she had told Bill everything before the pregnancy, before the coma, before the staged disappearance. She'd come clean to him, laid it all out, told him Poppy's plan, the fake relative she'd used to get Lee to prescribe the sedative, the manipulation of Steffi and Finn, even the fake paternity investigation emails. But instead of exposing it, Bill buried it. He had known, and he said nothing. Why? Because he saw an opportunity. Luna was young, beautiful, strategic. She was carrying his grandchild. And more importantly, she was the kind of scandal that could shift power in his favor. So Bill played along. He let the story spin. Let the Forresters fall deeper into damage control. Let the press speculate. Let Poppy think she'd won. But now, with Luna back and the truth leaking like blood through gauze, he was cornered. The story was no longer controllable. Steffi confronted Poppy in a scene that quickly turned vicious. The gloves came off. Poppy didn't deny it. In fact, she reveled in it. She accused the Forresters of decades of elitism, of looking down on anyone not born into couture. She called them a machine that devoured people like her and spit out their bones. Steffi slapped her. Poppy didn't flinch. Meanwhile, Finn stood frozen between the two women, his wife and his patient's mother, realizing that he had failed both. His silence, his loyalty to Lee, his refusal to report the inconsistencies in Luna's blood work had all contributed to the cover-up. He was no longer just a doctor. He was part of the lie. Hope Logan, once Luna's mentor and champion, released a statement distancing herself and hope for the future from all parties involved. Behind the scenes, she met with Ridge and Brooke to discuss restructuring the company. Rumors swirled that she would leave Forrester entirely and take her line elsewhere. Investors backed her, and Ridge was the final piece, because buried in Luna's recordings was one last reveal. A conversation between Poppy and Ridge, recorded unintentionally on Luna's phone, where Ridge offered Poppy a deal walk away quietly, and Forrester would pay. He had tried to buy her silence. Now it was too late. Luna's return had burned every bridge, destroyed every alliance, and left every family in ashes. The question was no longer what happened, but what would happen next? Who would claim the child? Who would take the fall? Who would survive the fallout? Because in the world of the bold and the beautiful, truth is never clean. It's weaponized. It's currency. It's chaos. And Luna, once upon, now held the board in her hands. And the game was far from over. The announcement of Luna's death shattered the fragile stability of Los Angeles' most powerful families. The initial shock sent Finn spiraling, cracked the weight of Steffi's control, and ignited a firestorm between the Forsters, the Spencers, and everyone in their orbit. Her sudden disappearance, the discovery of her belongings near the cliffs, the absence of a body, and the silence that followed all led to one conclusion: Luna was dead. That singular belief became the spark that reignited old grudges and lit new fires. Finn blamed himself for not protecting her. Steffi questioned why Luna had been allowed into their lives at all. Brooke and Ridge moved quickly to contain the PR fallout. Bill turned inward, driven by the guilt of his last conversation with Luna. Across the city, mourners whispered, tabloids speculated, and the grief thickened into rage. But Luna wasn't dead, and her return wasn't a homecoming. It was war. The revelation that she had survived, and worse, had allowed the world to believe she was gone didn't bring closure. It detonated a new wave of suspicion and betrayal. If she hadn't died, then someone had staged her death. And if it was staged, who had orchestrated it? And why? The question wasn't where had Luna been, but what had she done while she was gone, and who had helped her disappear? Steffi, already volatile in grief, felt the betrayal like a knife to the spine. Her family had suffered, fractured, and nearly collapsed. She had watched her husband spiral into guilt, her business endure relentless media attack, and her daughter ask questions no mother should have to answer. And all the while, Luna had been alive, watching, silent, hidden. Steffi snapped. To her, Luna wasn't a victim anymore. She was the architect of emotional destruction. She had let the world mourn her, let Finn drift into depression, let Hope, Ridge, and Brooke waste resources on damage control. She had allowed herself to become a martyr in the public's eyes, only to return like a ghost and throw every relationship into question. Steffi didn't want an apology. She wanted the truth, and she was willing to force it. She lured Luna to the very cliffs where her death had been staged, told her it was a private conversation, that she just wanted clarity. But Steffi didn't want clarity. She wanted confession. And standing on the edge of that rocky drop, with the waves crashing below, she pushed Luna with words designed to shatter defenses. Tell me who helped you fake your death, or I swear, this time you won't walk away. Luna, visibly shaken but unbroken, stood her ground. She refused to admit guilt. She claimed she had been manipulated, that she hadn't staged anything, that someone else had used her, drugged her, and made her disappearance look like death to cover something far darker. But Steffi wasn't interested in theories. She was hunting facts. And she didn't believe Luna was innocent. Back at the hospital, Finn wrestled with the impossible. His instincts as a doctor told him to protect Luna, to treat her trauma, to dig into the real reason behind her disappearance. But as a husband, he saw Steffi unraveling. The woman he loved was caught between heartbreak and fury, and he was the only person standing between the two. Every path he took was a betrayal of someone. If he defended Luna, he risked his marriage. If he stood with Steffi, he'd be abandoning his oath to protect life, truth, and healing. His crisis was no longer internal. It was playing out in real time. His loyalty was being tested by every phone call, every stare, every unspoken accusation in the halls of Forrester and Spencer. But Luna's survival had set off a deeper chain reaction, and everyone had something to lose. Will Spencer, drawn back into the shadows of his father's empire, had been one of the last people to see Luna before her death. His alibi was shaky. He had once harbored feelings for her. Some whispered he had followed her that night. Others believed he had helped her vanish. And with Bill still reeling, Will was under pressure to either clear his name or face the fallout. Electra, the rising star of Forrester's new tech fashion division, had been eyeing Luna's spot in the company long before her fall. Ambitious, calculating, and always watching, she stood to gain everything from Luna's disappearance. With Luna back, Electra's rise was suddenly threatened and her resentment began to boil over. She started leaking rumors to the press. Stories about Luna's instability, about a secret pregnancy, about manipulation and men. Sheila Carter, never far from chaos, saw opportunity. She had no allegiance to Luna, Steffi, or even her own son. She offered Luna protection, a new identity. A way out if Luna would reveal what really happened that night. Because Sheila believed the disappearance was a smokescreen. That someone had wanted Luna silenced not because of who she was, but because of what she knew. Lee, ever the surgeon and strategist, had remained publicly quiet. But privately, she was furious. If Luna's disappearance had anything to do with medical manipulation, she wanted no trace of it near her reputation. But more than that, she wanted to protect Finn. She warned him, "Don't let your feelings cloud your judgment. If Luna's return destroys your family, no one wins." The storm gathered. Rumors became headlines. Luna returns from the dead who lied. Fake death or failed murder. Steffi versus Luna. Cliffside confrontation turns explosive. Public sympathy evaporated. People began to question everything. Was Luna a victim? A fraud? A manipulator? Or a woman silenced because she knew too much? And finally, Luna began to talk. Not to Steffi, not to Bill, but to the press. In a controlled leak to a trusted journalist, Luna revealed that before her disappearance, she had uncovered information that threatened to expose a secret alliance between two rival families, an off-the-books deal involving money, genetic records, and corporate blackmail. She had stumbled on something massive and someone had tried to make her vanish. She didn't name names, but she hinted. She said the person behind it was powerful, respected, and would do anything to protect their legacy, and that her death had been convenient for them. Now, the story wasn't just about Luna. It was about everyone. Steffi, desperate to contain the damage, launched her own counter-campaign. She painted Luna as unstable, traumatized, and unreliable. Bill threatened lawsuits against any outlet that published unverified claims. Ridge pushed for a forensic investigation. Brooke tried to mediate, but the fracture was too wide. Hope, quietly observing, began distancing herself from the family drama altogether. And through it all, Finn unraveled. He knew Luna wasn't lying. Her vitals, her trauma markers, her medical history all pointed to a woman who had been drugged, silenced, and manipulated. He began digging, quietly. He pulled hospital logs, re-examined test results, interviewed nurses. The deeper he went, the darker it got. And then he found in a deleted surveillance file, time-stamped the night of Luna's disappearance. A shadow moving through the hospital. Someone entering the supply room where sedatives were stored. The footage was blurry, but the silhouette was unmistakable. It was Steffi. Finn's world shattered. Now the question wasn't who staged Luna's death, but whether his wife had done it herself. And if so, what was she protecting? The answers would rip every alliance apart, pit family against family, and leave no one untouched. Because Luna's return wasn't a resurrection. It was the beginning of the end.